Most lifters treat the treadmill as a threat. Somewhere along the way, the idea settled in that any cardio done during a muscle-building phase is a tax on your gains, a slow leak in the same tank you're trying to fill. So the treadmill sits unused. Or it becomes the thing you do for 10 guilty minutes at the end of a session, half convinced you're quietly undoing the work you just did under the bar. I held that fear for a long time. I built entire training blocks around avoiding it, and I told myself the avoidance was discipline. Then I spent a few years actually paying attention to what happened to my lifting when I stopped avoiding it, and the picture that came back was close to the opposite of what I'd expected. The subject is cardio while bulking, and more specifically, the one kind of cardio nobody bothers to sell to lifters because it burns unimpressive numbers and it never leaves you on the floor. Zone 2. Low intensity, steady state, done at a pace where you could hold a conversation the whole way through. The kind of effort that feels almost insulting to someone used to training hard. Let me be precise about what Zone 2 is, because the term gets used loosely. It's a heart rate range, somewhere around 60 to 70% of your maximum, though the cleaner way to define it is metabolic rather than numerical. Zone 2 is the highest intensity you can hold while your body still clears lactate about as fast as it produces it. You're working, but you're not accumulating fatigue the way a hard set forces you to. If you're gasping, you've climbed out of the zone. If you can speak in full sentences but wouldn't want to sing, you're somewhere inside it. The test is that simple, and most people who try it for the first time are moving too fast because slow feels like cheating. Now, the reason lifters avoid it, which is worth taking seriously, because the fear is built on something real. There's a phenomenon in the training literature called the interference effect. Concurrent endurance training can, under certain conditions, blunt some of the adaptations you're chasing from strength work. It exists, it has been measured, but the way it travels through gym conversation has almost nothing to do with what the studies actually showed. The interference effect appears most clearly when there's a high volume of high-intensity endurance work stacked on top of lifting. Long, hard runs, repeated intervals, the kind of training that reaches into the same recovery budget your lifting depends on and spends it. Low-intensity steady-state cardio, kept to a sane dose, sits almost entirely outside that problem. Physiologically, it's a different message to the body. It asks for something the barbell never asks for, and the body answers in a different currency. Everything I'm about to walk you through is built into my complete lean bulking program, and I've dropped the link in the description. Understand the reasoning first though, because it's what makes the program work. What changed my mind wasn't a study, though the studies came later to explain it. It was noticing that in the weeks I did 2 or 3 easy Zone 2 sessions, my heavy days felt better. Not my cardio days, my lifting days. The bar moved cleaner on the second and third working set. The morning after a brutal leg session, I could walk. Something about the easy aerobic work was making the hard anaerobic work more sustainable, and for a good while, I had no explanation for it, which bothered me more than the fatigue ever had. The explanation, when I finally went looking, turned out to be in the plumbing. Train Zone 2 consistently, and you build mitochondria, the small structures inside your cells that produce energy aerobically. You build more of them, and the ones you already have get better at their work. Alongside that, you grow new capillaries, the tiny blood vessels that thread through muscle tissue. More capillaries means more blood reaching the muscle, which means more oxygen and more nutrients delivered, and more waste carried away. None of this is a muscle-building adaptation in the way a heavy set of squats is muscle building. It's an infrastructure adaptation. You're widening the roads, you're not building the houses on them. And infrastructure is exactly what recovery runs on, which is the part the folklore misses completely. Think about what happens in the 90 seconds between your working sets. After a hard set, your muscles are clearing metabolic byproducts and restoring the energy systems that let you produce force again. A lifter with a well-developed aerobic base clears that debt faster, so the same rest period does more for him. He walks into his next heavy set closer to genuinely recovered than the lifter beside him, who has spent 2 years carefully avoiding any effort that made him breathe hard. The same thing plays out on a longer timescale between training days. The delivery system that Zone 2 builds is the one moving amino acids and glucose toward the muscle you damaged yesterday. Recovery is a circulatory problem at least as much as it is a nutritional one. Most lifters have optimized the nutrition side to the third decimal place, while leaving the circulation side completely untrained, and then they wonder why the food doesn't seem to land. This is the whole reframe. Zone 2 is not cardio you do in spite of your bulk. It's a recovery instrument you happen to perform on a treadmill. It makes your hypertrophy workout routine more productive by making you more recoverable, and a more recoverable lifter can tolerate more training, and training tolerance is one of the quiet levers behind long-term muscle gain. The lifters who fear the machine are leaving that lever untouched. If you'd rather not piece all of this together yourself, the exact weekly structure is laid out session by session inside my lean bulking program, linked below, so there's nothing left to guess at. There's a second effect that matters more the longer a bulk runs. When you eat in a caloric surplus for months on end, your cardiovascular fitness tends to erode without announcing itself, especially if your only real activity is lifting and the walk to your car. You get bigger and you slowly get worse at moving through the world. Zone 2 holds that line. It lets you carry the added mass without turning into someone who's winded at the top of a staircase. And it keeps your conditioning intact so that when you eventually strip the fat off, you're not starting from nothing. That matters for anyone serious about how to lean bulk, because a lean bulk is a long game measured in seasons, and the version of you that walks out the far end of it should be more capable, not merely heavier. The dose is where people manage to overcomplicate something that resists complication. 2 to 3 sessions a week, 30 to 45 minutes each, held at that conversational pace. Incline walking does the job as well as anything. A stationary bike is fine. A rower works too, though keeping a rower genuinely easy is harder than it sounds because the machine invites you to attack it. The mode barely matters. What matters is that you stay in the zone and refuse to let the session quietly turn into a contest with yourself. A handful of practical notes, because the details are exactly where people sabotage the thing. Keep the Zone 2 work away from your hardest lifting when you can manage it. A morning of easy cardio and an evening of heavy squats suits most people fine. Stacked back to back in one session, cardio first. It will shave something off the top of your lifting, so if you only have the one slot, put the cardio after the bar or on a separate day. Resist, always, the pull to push the pace. The entire benefit lives in the easiness of it. The moment you turn Zone 2 into intervals, you've walked straight into the interference effect you were trying to sidestep in the first place, and give it real time before you judge it. Mitochondrial density and new capillaries are slow, unglamorous adaptations that don't care about your enthusiasm in week 1. You'll notice it somewhere around the 4th or 5th week, as a heavy session that by rights should have flattened you somehow leaves you standing. There's a particular lifter I think about when this comes up. 2 years in, strong, carrying real size, and completely gassed after one hard set because his heart and his circulation had never been asked to do anything but idle between efforts. Strong and unfit in the same body, with the unfitness quietly capping the strength while he blamed his program and his sleep and his creatine. That was me for longer than I'd care to put on record. The fix was never more sets or a smarter split. It was the least impressive training in the building, done slowly, on purpose, for no reward I could feel that day. The treadmill was never the enemy. It was a tool standing in plain sight, mislabeled by a piece of gym folklore that got the biology almost exactly backwards, and the lifters who learn to use it recover on the days they aren't trying to. If you're serious about doing this properly, my complete lean bulking program is the fastest way to skip the years of trial and error this took me. The link is in the description, and it's where all of this stops being theory and becomes a plan you can actually run.